I did actually load up and look at the Baldur's Gate character select just to see how that was gonna feel like, and yeah, I guess the important thing is not to see how many overwhelming choices there would be. It would be to see what the limitations are, because in my brain, I'm hoping for a whole lot that may or may not be there, and now I know how much is not there.
So they do a pretty good thing with the beginning of the character creator, where the choices are fairly understandable and limited at zero. At level zero, you're like, what do you want to look like? Where are you from? What is the basic class and subtype that you want? And then you get to your stats, and I messed around and made a bunch of characters and kept making. I mentioned it a few weeks ago. I kept making the recommended stat loadout.
Right, right,
Like
yeah.
I would tally it up. And I want 16 in this. I want 16 in that, and I would hit recommend, and it wouldn't change. The recommended for whatever your subtype is seem really solid.
Mm-hmm.
Which for D&D and ability scores, that's always been like a kind of contentious thing. Like, yeah, you're good to just hit recommended on your ability scores.
So my impression of that character builder was that it feels like it's very restricted to keep the system from falling apart with too much freedom.
So are you talking about mechanically or like visually?
So a little bit of both. So one thing right off the bat that I guess I wasn't expecting but saw was like no body type variability whatsoever. You
There
get
is in the final release,
okay.
but it's not a slider. They talked about sliders and how they dislike sliders. The body type variability will be for some of the race picks, like half elves. Do you want to have a human
Mm-hmm.
body or like a little burlier, or do you want to have like more slender elf body?
Okay.
And same thing with faces. No sliders. They're all predetermined.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There was an interview where they talked about it and said they had a version of the game that had sliders and they were really unhappy with it. And they wanted to have predefined pieces so that your character would look consistent with every other character that they found in the game. The the system they're using for your guy is the system they use for nearly every NPC in the game.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because they didn't say, they didn't name drop it, but they didn't want to have the shepherd problem.
Mm.
The Mass Effect shepherd problem was
You
for
look
real. There was
Yeah, you look
like a
incredible in a bunch of ways, and every NPC is just a completely separate creator.
and a lot of people made shepherds that look like dog shit
Mm-hmm.
compared to the stuff that was in the game. They did mention Street Fighter.
Ah, interesting,
They
because that
specifically
thing kind of
mentioned
spoiled us with the
we do not
sliders.
we do not want to have a bunch of freaks roaming around in your game.
Okay,
It
okay.
was not like disparaging, but they're like, no, that's not the kind of thing that we want.
Because I guess I was looking around and checking it out, and I was like, oh, so like, there's like like the orcish looking race, and like they're all skinny. You can't really go big, or if you're doing yeah, whatever the build is for now is like, yeah, it seems like you're pretty restricted in
There
that
will
way.
be a larger body type,
Okay.
but they also wanted to keep that fairly standardized so
Hmm.
that like probably they don't have to make that many different like armors or
And then other
clothing
things, and then
presets.
some things get tons of options, right? So if you're looking at like a tiefling, and it's like, yo, we got a million types of horns. What do you want your horns to look like? You know?
Including I tried to cut my horns off
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hellboy.
as an option, which
Hmm.
is the coolest one.
Absolutely. So that was like, okay, you gave some options there. That's nice. So yeah, we'll wait for the full as well. I saw that.
Like there's the ability to like unlock the skin tone and eye colors for tiefling, and you can play like a human shaded, like, because tieflings are all like chromatic, they're all like bright red or yellow or
Hmm.
blue or something, but you can pick a human skin tone with a human hair tone and human eye color and pick the shaved horns
Hmm.
and be like, I'm like human facing
Yeah. So
my tiefling.
So I was gonna ask, like, how weird does that look in the rest of the game? Because like, I don't imagine you run into anyone else that is within that.
I mean,
Like,
you might. They have a cool feature which is like when you pick a race and then you pick like skin tone or eye color. There's the ones that are appropriate for that setting,
Yeah.
but then you click expand it to
All.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
So everything within the normal range,
Will
you're
be in
probably going to run
game.
into some variation, but outside of that normal range, you're very unlikely to run into anybody. But you can make it for you if you want.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. And then yeah, and then the stats wise, I'm looking at D&D stats and things like that. That's all pretty straightforward.
There's something they did for the final release that's very different from how it's being presented now. So classically in D&D, you have the thing of like dwarves have +2 to Constitution, right? And that's dwarves just got that. That's just how they is. And the problem with that is that it like makes some races way, way, way better than others at some classes. They have removed that for the final release. No matter what race you pick, you will get a +2 to a stat of choice, and you will get a +1 to a stat of choice.
Okay.
So, like, if you want to be the smartest dwarven wizard or the burliest elf, you
You get to
totally
do that.
can.
Nice. Okay. Smart. Something that I looked at too, and I'm like having flashbacks to high school where my friend was explaining to me when I was learning stats. The way we used to play was wisdom was how book learned you were and educated, and intelligence was how intuitively smart you were. And it seems like the
Oh, that
description is the
hasn't been the
reverse
case.
here.
That has never been the case. That was a homebrew rule you were dealing with.
Oh, wow!
Um,
I've learned that wrong from
uh,
years ago.
in,
Then
intel intelligence was usually your raw intuitiveness as well as your ability to learn, recycle, recite information. Wisdom has usually been the application of existing knowledge.
that's so strange to me because the words make me think of like how a wise old man is wise because he's experienced more than I have, but someone who's
Yeah.
intelligent is doesn't necessarily have that experience, but they're just able to be smart
Yeah.
about what little
Charisma
things they
has
have. So it feels like the words
char-
are off there.
charisma has become a much broader stat than it used to be because charisma is like how charming you are in its original incarnation in D&D. But now it is not necessarily I'm a likable handsome guy because it used to be like in 2.0, 1.0, charisma would like your score determine your physical attractiveness.
Okay.
Like
Yeah, yeah,
and it
yeah.
was literally just how much riz you had.
Yes, yes.
Um Now it is not that. It is the force of your personality. How overwhelming is your presence, right? Because it allows for things like ugly, dumb shit paladins who are just true fucking believers who are way into their own shit, and like you can feel that coming off
Yeah.
of them. That's
Yeah, yeah.
technically charisma now.
No, that same high school like learning of the stats, charisma. Like I remember there's like a character that's like charisma 18, and it's like, oh yeah, that just means you're beautiful. That just means you're hot. You know.
Yeah,
Um,
it means people will like you by default, and it means that you're good with your words, and it means
and I'm
um,
and then you eyeball things like charisma as the ability versus intimidation versus intuiting like liars and things like that. And you're kind of like, okay, so you can probably like be suave to get your way, or you can shake your fist to get your way, and it'll
you can
probably
shake
even
your
out the
fist,
same
you can be
thing.
suave, or you can lie. Or they've done a really fun job with like barbarians typically don't have much besides an intimidation because they're not particularly smart and they're not particularly charismatic. But there's like in the early access thing, I think I might have mentioned this earlier. There's a situation in which wizards and sorcerers can't open like a magic door because it's too heavily warded, and they just don't have the intelligence or the wisdom or the charisma to open it. But barbarians passing a strength check can just pull it out of the wall
Okay.
and just bypass the magical ward entirely.
Yeah. So
Just get out of here.
So yeah, no, I hope the launch version of this does end up resembling like an MMO character creator, where you get like tons of different final states to to use. But yeah, I just got a feel for it. Saw some haircuts and what we're dealing with. So meh.
One of my favorite things, they showed off like the dragon race, the cool like dragonborn, I think they're called. And you have this variety of tail options, including my favorite, no tail.
Oh, nice, interesting.
If you don't want a tail clipping through the back of your fucking ass through every single piece of gear you wear, no tail.
Because yeah, the
Done.
tiefling had that, and that didn't seem to be an option. Okay, cool.